Hi, I'm Becky from Holistic Equine. Today I'm going to talk about equipment and tools for trimming horses. First, we have preparation of the hoof. It's really important to clean the hoof thoroughly so you can see all of the structures, and also for tool and hygiene purposes as well. So I've got a wire brush, a hoof pick, and scissors to trim the hairline so we can accurately document the horse's hoof and assess. And then something to clean them with. So I've got a 50-50 mix of water and sole cleanse, and to that I add about a half teaspoon of copper sulfate granules. Fly spray, pretty important if there are flies around, not only for the comfort of the horse but for our safety as well. The last thing we want is to be kicked while we're handling a horse's hooves. For documenting, I place the horse's hoof on a wooden board, and behind the hoof I'll use a whiteboard so we can more accurately and clearly see the hoof. We also want a scale marker of a known length so we can take measurements as well, and you can do that in the Hoof Map app. I typically use a camera with a flip out lens which I place on the floor so I can see what it is that I'm taking a photograph of more clearly. But you can use a smartphone, and that gives you the opportunity to map the hoof live before and after trimming using Hoof Map. I always trim using cut resistant gloves. You can buy these from Amazon. They aren't too thick as well, so you can feel the hoof underneath your hand. You'll also notice that I wear cut resistant arm protectors as well. When it comes to knives, they're obviously a very personal choice. This is my new favourite, which is a JH Forge knife, and this was introduced to me by Daisy Bicking in a recent trip to America. And you'll see there it's got an ergonomic handle. I have quite small hands, but that's very easy for me to grip. And this is a shorty with a pick. You'll see it's quite a short blade with a hoof pick, and it's got a drop belly. I also have a left-handed knife to trim the right-handed side of the frog, so I can draw the knife towards me, and I find trimming the frog in that fashion easier. We also need a knife sharpener. This is a PB knife sharpener. WD-40 to spray the rasp before and after use. This does two things. It helps prevent it from getting rusty, and it also helps it prevent it from clogging with hoof material. The rasps that I use are usually these two. So this is a Excel Original by Hella. It's slightly wider than the average rasp, and you can see it's got a blue tang. This is a used rasp, and I believe it's suitable for all weather conditions, so dry hooves and more wet hooves. When it's very dry, I tend to switch to Hella Black Master. It is much more abrasive. You can see it's narrower. It has this sort of black coating, and it's a red tang. That's how you identify it. And of course you need a handle to go onto the rasp. It's better to store your rasp in the cardboard container that it comes in when you purchase it, and that again helps to stop it from being rusty. Nippers. So the nippers that I use are 14-inch GE racetrack nippers, and you'll see that they're fitted with a nipper spring, and this allows the nippers to be used one-handed. While I was in America recently, I was introduced to these, and these are bonsai nippers, and these are really useful for getting into awkward places and for sort of trimming really hard bars, for example. And you can get them in different sort of sizes and finishes. You'll often see me recommending a horse lick with this has a horse lick holder as well to keep your hand away from the sticky stuff and from teeth. This is fairly useful to help keep horses comfortable and quiet during the trim, but also to help integrate the changes to the entire neuromuscular system as a result of the trim. A head torch is very useful if you're having to trim indoors. or even outdoors when it's overcast, so you can really see the hoof in more detail. And this is just one that I bought from Amazon. Once we've finished trimming and we're ready to document, or before we document, actually no, after we document, because we don't want to put arty mud on before we document, I'll finish with the Soul Cleanse spray, which is a eucalyptus and zinc sulfate spray. And I'll follow that with arty mud, which is clay and eucalyptus hoof putty. And we'll place that into the collateral grooves of the frog, over the surface of the frog, and around the white line and any cracks and crevices that may be present in the wall. With this particular horse, I'm actually going to finish with bandages, and then I'm going to boot him. So the bandages that I use help keep the foot dry and also help prevent rubs, not only from the boot, but from things getting into the boot. The boot themselves are taken off twice a day, but these will stay on between 1 and 2 weeks. So I use soft band synthetic bandages, and I follow that with a crepe adhesive bandage like a vet wrap. So the boots I use are what I typically recommend for rehab, but these will also do for exercise for most horses. This is a Cavallo boot, and it's easy to get on and off, and you can see it's already fitted with a 12mm Easy Care soft pad. What you can't see is, and this is all glued in of course, what you can't see underneath there is a 3mm scoot wedge which has been cut to size. Another boot I tend to recommend for rehab and light turnout is an Easy Boot Cloud. Again, they're really easy to fit. They do accommodate most hoof shapes. This you can see how it's conformed to the shape of the solar aspect of the hoof. There's the frog and the wall. And when everything's glued into position, it does help prevent the boot from spinning. In terms of what I'm wearing, you'll see I've got quite a loose fitting t-shirt, and I've got stretchy walking trousers. They're also waterproof and they allow me to bend over comfortably. And then on my feet I've got quite sturdy fell walking boots that protect my toes. I personally don't use steel toe caps because I can't find comfortable boots that will actually fit me. I've also got custom insoles in there to support my knees and hips. So in terms of what I wear when I'm trimming, I always wear a calf caddy. And this contains a rasp, a knife, and quite often my nippers. So this goes around my leg like so. It velcros into position. I can then slide my rasp in like so, and it's got a very strong magnet. I can pop a hoof knife in the front, and I can even slide my nippers down the back, but just be careful if you're bending over, say documenting, that you don't catch the top of the nippers. My trimming apron is just a standard trimming apron that I found on eBay. Because I'm quite short, I'm only 5'4", I do struggle to find aprons that fit me comfortably. So if there's any manufacturers of aprons watching this, please design a really nice ladies' apron for us shorter trimmers. Now the apron is there for 2 purposes. Well, 3. It does help to keep you clean and tidy, but most of all, it protects you from the horse's hooves if you're trimming with the hoof on your lap or between your legs. But it also protects you from your trimming equipment, such as a knife. So in mine, I tend to carry my knife in this side and my documenting and hoof mapping items in the other side. And you've got space for another knife, or say for example your little bonsai nippers. The last piece of equipment is a hoof stand. So this can be used to place the hoof on to address the hoof from above, but also we can place the hoof in the front foot or the hind foot into the cradle to trim. It's very sturdy, it's a hoof fit stand, and you can see you can just place your foot on it to keep it sturdy while you're trimming. So that's it, we are ready to trim.